We have Louis Marat. He's a LinkedIn Public Affairs, Government, Education, and Nonprofit Lead, LinkedIn Africa. Louis, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on the show today.
Welcome. It's so good to have you here. Louis, yes, for somebody who's, we know when we talk about LinkedIn, I remember earlier on we were told you have to create a profile on LinkedIn, right? Because it gives you, again, opportunities.
Yeah.
And as time goes by, I think I have changed my profile, my bio, so many times just to try and understand, is this the perfect fit?
Okay.
Am I saying the right words? Have I positioned it well? When it comes to us setting a profile on LinkedIn, where do we go wrong? Or rather, how should my bio look like?
It's a very good first question, actually, and it's actually the question that fits the narrative of the way in which we encourage people to put their profile together.
Yes.
When you created your profile, as you start to add information to it, you've got the possibility of having a percentage of profile completeness.
Yes.
Right? You've got to add your job, your education, what you've done so far, a picture, maybe a profile picture as well, a cover picture. And the question is of actually ticking as many boxes as you can to get every single step in the box right, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what I would recommend at this stage.
Okay, so your job, your education.
Exactly.
What about the about section? What should be there?
Add the about section as well. You don't want the about section to be too much of a repetition of your actual profile.
Yes.
Okay. You want it to be in some capacity a version of yourself that summarizes yourself in a different way to what's below.
Yes.
Okay. Add a slight personal touch. Talk about your hobbies. Okay. Talk about perhaps the people that you'd want to engage with as well. Mm-hmm. If you're actually, for example, a freelancer, and you're in a capacity to maybe offer your services, you can add that not necessarily in the about box. You can also add that if you like.
Yes.
Okay. But actually between the profile picture that you have and the about box, you've got several sections that you can set up where you can, even if you're a freelancer, sell your services. Right? Mm-hmm. So for example, if you're a student, you're a 22-year-old student at TUM here in Mombasa.
Yes.
Okay. Perhaps you're a graphic designer on the side. In that case, what you could be doing is that you could be adding a link, like a proper sales link towards booking a meeting. Yes. With your own self, so that you can actually start to create inbound marketing leads to start to get some clients.
Yeah.
As a 22-year-old.
Yeah. Right.
In a way that you wouldn't necessarily have been in front of the same audience if you weren't branding yourself in the best possible way on LinkedIn. Does that make sense?
It does.
Fantastic.
Now, most people say when you go to LinkedIn, it's so we are. I'm Miriam, right? Yeah. If you look at my profile on Instagram, a bit different, on Facebook different, TikTok different, and then when it comes to LinkedIn, there's an element of this professional person. You have to stand out. What is the difference between LinkedIn and this other profiles, and then what is the purpose it's meant to serve? Yes.
So I'll answer the second question before the first question. The purpose it's meant to serve is actually dependent on what you'd want to achieve, right? Maybe you want to actually find a job, in which case you're going to brand yourself in a different way to perhaps if you want to find some leads and find some clients, right? If you want to grow your network or perhaps inform yourself, you're going to be using LinkedIn in a different way, okay? Regarding the first question, it kind of feeds from the second question as well to a large extent. The way in which you're going to brand yourself is then going to directly impact the messaging that you're going to be putting out on the platform. The fundamental difference between LinkedIn and most other platforms is that on LinkedIn, you have to brand yourself, as Miriam, okay? It's a legal requirement from the LinkedIn perspective. It has to be an own kind of individual physical person that's creating a profile on the platform, okay? Unlike other news media or kind of social media for good and bad, where perhaps you don't necessarily have to brand yourself as Miriam, okay? So it's more of a professional network in that capacity, all right? Yeah. And because you're putting your name out there, you want to be branding yourself in a way that actually represents who you are, what you do, and also what you want to achieve. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. Does it also link as, okay, so then LinkedIn, is it a platform where, because we have employers, so we have job seekers, right? Yeah. And then I'm looking for an opportunity, and I like the fact that it gives an opportunity for you to say that I'm searching for a job, right? And then there are also those who are looking for employees or people with skills.
Recruiters.
Yes,
exactly.
They're recruiters as well. Now, in such a situation where we have recruiters and we have job seekers, right? Where do we go wrong? Because at times you're applying for all these opportunities on LinkedIn, and you apply for a job, you see this opportunity, you apply for it, you see another one, you apply for it, right? But then the return, or how to translate that and say, I actually got this job through LinkedIn, it's minimal. what is the problem? What are we missing?
Yeah. So it's a very good question, and one thing I'm noticing actually in terms of the narrative that you're positioning around, what we do as a platform, you guys have done your homework pretty well.
I'm on LinkedIn.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you're also I'm assuming that you're probably some pretty good users of the platform as well.
Yeah.
So good question. There's two elements to it. We work heavily with organizations, the largest companies that you can think of in Kenya, perhaps also in Africa that recruit in Kenya. If we also think of international organizations, right, the big American corporates that have offices in Nairobi, the likes of, the big tech companies that you're probably all familiar with, and a bunch of others, okay? So what they do is that they partner heavily with us to bring their jobs onto the platform because they know that they're going to be finding talent through LinkedIn. And that's essentially a massive acquisition channel for them to find talent into their organizations. Okay, most of them actually would be in a pretty struggling position, essentially, if they weren't in a capacity to fill the roles that they need to fit into, to make sure that the business is working in the best possible way. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, and that's the supply side. That's the demand side of things, right? And then on the supply side of things, well, that's the people that are actually coming onto LinkedIn, right? So that's the young people, the people who are perhaps mid-career that want to advance their career and perhaps either job hop if that's something that they're interested in doing, or at least shop around to know what's on the market, right? I know a bunch of people who work in a number of different companies that even if they don't necessarily want to move elsewhere, they'd interview twice a year just to kind of know their value on the market and have an understanding of what can I then do in my next performance review with my manager to best kind of ascertain where I'm at, okay, as an example. Now, going back to your question, I'm answering it in a kind of somewhat convoluted way, but I'm coming back to it in a second. You asked, to what extent is it the case that we are seeing a somewhat mismatch between perhaps what interests me and what is being positioned in front of me, essentially, right? There's a really good algorithmic matching if you go to the job section on LinkedIn, right? Because a lot of people would have LinkedIn on their mobile phones or access it through their laptops, right? And if you think of how you access it on your mobile phone, you've got the different sections at the bottom, right? Homepage, posts, notifications, network, and then to the right, you've got the job section, okay? That's a place where we've got a lot of Kenyans, East Africans, and also just people globally who are going there to understand the kinds of opportunities that are going to arise for them. Okay, there's two things that I'll answer to end with. The first is that you get the best possible jobs that are matched to your position and what LinkedIn scans as being your experience on your profile. Okay, now there may not necessarily always be something that's interesting for you. But what I would actually encourage young people to do so that we can actually, come with a few takeaways from the conversation here is to, based on the jobs that are being shown, see if there's a career pathway that could be of interest to you that you'd want to go into in the future. And based off of that, you can actually start to, based on market demand and your skills, think of a career plan. And how can I position myself in the next 12 to 18 months or further down the line? Does that answer the question? Fantastic.
All right.
I want to ask you a question. Is it really a good idea to follow your boss on LinkedIn?
To follow your boss on LinkedIn? Oh, you should be connected with your boss on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So actually, when you connect with someone, you start to follow them as well. And vice versa.
Yes.
But then what you can also do is that if you connect with someone, but you don't want, you're not interested in their content, but you do want to be connected, you want to be connected with them for, networking reasons, but you don't necessarily want them to appear in your newsfeed.
Yes.
Because you don't like their content for whatever reason.
Okay? Yeah.
You can actually then unfollow them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I mean, it depends. What's your relationship like with your boss?
I mean, you might be, for example, right now, and it's so conflicted because my boss is looking at me directly at me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I didn't know if it was there or behind. Okay.
So I'm in this position that I am. I'm very passionate about what I do, what I talk about, and that means I'm in a position to interact with other people in this space as well.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about all those guys who are doing media, all those guys who are doing content, all those guys who are doing marketing. That's my field. Okay. So I might have conversations with other people in other organizations. You see, now that's a sticky situation because that means it might look like you're eyeing someone. And then I press a wrong button on my profile and it's like open to work. Okay. Although I'm still working there.
Oh yeah. Okay. Look, maybe it's the right time to get a raise. Who knows?
I do not know what you guys are talking about.
There's actually so I'm glad that you mentioned the open to work. Right?
Yes.
Because I mean, beyond the joke, there's actually some substance behind the question, right?
True.
So he does need a raise now. But
tafadhali, please.
You've been hard.
The substance behind the question is the following. You're asking me basically, to what extent should you be leveraging LinkedIn to also, and this is going to be of interest to the audience, right? That's why I'm going into this direction, to look for new opportunities, right? To advance your career. LinkedIn is a fantastic place, just like other social media, to inform yourself. You can actually, going back to the follow button, right? There's a number of influencers on LinkedIn. Just like you'd maybe follow some, good, interesting, high added value accounts on maybe YouTube, TikTok, X, whatever it may be, where there's a lot of good information to get, right? To update yourself, to read the news, to explore different topics, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Same on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, you can follow, for example, you can follow, there's a number of high-level stakeholders in the kind of public policy tech field actually in Kenya who are on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Okay, there's a bunch of others. I mean, there's all sorts of and there's an increasing variety of content producers, content makers that are coming onto the platform as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we were to start to see some of the biggest YouTubers or some of the kind of, biggest influencers that we see on other platforms, but not necessarily today on LinkedIn. Okay, that's the first thing. As in, you can start to engage with audiences to inform yourself, but also actually start to post yourself, right? To build your personal branding, to start to be as relevant and visible as possible in a space that you'd want to explore as a career path down the line, okay? However old you are, whether you're 18, 25, 30, whether you're studying, whether you have a side project, whatever it may be, okay? First part of first kind of comment based on the question that you asked. The second comment I want to make, because you mentioned the open to work nature of the kind of tag that you can put on your profile, massively important. If recruiters can have a cue, if you can basically nudge recruiters into letting them believe that you're actually interested in joining another organization, kudos to you. Right?
I think the fear is what Josh is also talking about. If I'm still working at this organization and I'm actively searching, right? So LinkedIn creates an opportunity where I can easily say I'm open to work. Yeah. Now, him relating it to employer is, I put it out there that I'm open to work, but I'm still working in this organization. I'm still receiving, I'm still getting paid, right? What is, I think pretty much, what is the best way to even go about it? Wouldn't this hurt somebody's chances? And when you say open to work, does it have to come at the end of when you're done with
your current tenure?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're in the business of creating economic opportunity for every single member of the global workforce. Yeah. Okay, so we want to see upward labor mobility. We want to see people getting promoted in their current organizations. We want to see people get in front of and be aware of different opportunities that may arise in other organizations as well. That's why we have the job section, right? The open to work section, there's two elements to it. If we think of open to work, we often think of, the profile pictures with like a banner, right? With the green section saying hashtag I think open to work.
Yes.
That's one way of doing it, okay? A number of people do that. I don't have the stats on the percentage of, the users of LinkedIn that actually do that, but it'll be X percent. But then Y percent will also be the people who are open to work, but not in a public capacity. They don't post it. They don't have, the picture saying open to work. But what they do have is the ability in the settings of their profile to say, I'm open to work for X, Y, Z different types of roles. It may be, I don't know, I'm currently a public affairs associate in an organization in Nairobi. Yeah. I'm interested in a similar type of role. Okay? And then what happens is that no one sees it in public. No one knows that you're open to work, apart from recruiters from other organizations.
Oh, nice.
Just so that they, you can virtue signal yourself as being someone who's on the market. At least open to have conversations.
Yes.
Not necessarily open to jump ship. Okay? And we want to see upward mobility across all sectors. Yes. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. When you talk about the job section, right? And you said it has to be, when you're looking at your profile and you're looking at the job section, right? I'm looking at a space where, again, with the content that we're posting, what kind of content does one need to post on LinkedIn? What I see is, okay, I'm posting, somebody posting about their work, you're posting about your successes pretty much, right? And it's like you're updating. It's like this CV, and I'm saying, oh, I have done this. I attended this event. I was an MC at this function. I was a moderator at this, right? I'm pretty much talking about in my line of work. Like after this interview, we'll take a picture and I said hosted Louis Maret, you know, from LinkedIn.
100%.
So it's more like I'm updating every single thing that I've been doing professionally on LinkedIn. Is the content restricted to that? And how does that benefit an individual?
So are you asking me in the job section on LinkedIn?
Sorry, forget the job section. Let's go to the content.
You're going to the posts?
Yes, the posts, yes.
Okay. So it's basically a function of whatever you want to be branding yourself on the platform as, right? If you're a radio host and you have a LinkedIn profile, I'm assuming that the number one kind of messaging that you want to be putting out there is the work that you're doing in the studio. And perhaps beyond, maybe you have some journalistic functions, maybe you're working in some capacity as a consultant in different, you know, places, X, Y, you know, as a side project. It's essentially whatever you want to be advancing as your own career path, as your own journey, that you want to be posting on LinkedIn, as long as it's professional, of course, right?
Okay.
So there also was a narrative on LinkedIn a few years ago. You see it far less today, of like some cringe-ish posts. You know what I'm talking about? I went to work, driver killed the dog, saved the dog, went into the interview, arrived 30 minutes late, got the job. Okay.
Yes.
We all saw that kind of stuff, right? Like 2 or 3 years ago, there was a bit of that. That's all been sifted out. So you just don't see that as much as you used to.
Yeah.
Okay. We're actually, the algorithm is focused on providing high value content that's matched, of course, algorithmically, to basically, when you're scrolling and just informing yourself on different things, you get the most relevant post to what interests you. Okay. So basically what you've got to do is think of the audience that you want to be targeting on LinkedIn. Maybe you have a bit of a brand on LinkedIn. Maybe you have X amount of followers. And even if you don't have a following basis, you're going to have the connections that you have that are already going to be following you. Unless they don't follow you, as we discussed 20 minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to be thinking, how do you want to start influencing that audience? And based off of your objectives and what you think is going to interest them, then you connect, you make that match, and then you start to post what makes the most sense.
Talk to me about the distinction between LinkedIn Premium and the regular LinkedIn.
Yeah, so LinkedIn Premium is a paid feature of LinkedIn.
Yes.
That you can pay for, I think, monthly, annually. It costs a different amount based on where you're buying it from. I couldn't tell you right now off the top of my head. And it adds value across a number of different features. The number one added value, the number one target audience of LinkedIn Premium is job seekers. So if you go into a job, and then you scroll down with LinkedIn Premium, and you scroll down to the bottom of the job, you can start to see how you compare to the pool of candidates. Let's say there's 100 candidates. You have a master's degree. It's going to tell you how many candidates have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD. It's also going to tell you how many people, senior level, entry level, director level, etc., etc. So it's going to basically compare you to the pool of candidates. That's one thing. Secondly, it also expands your ability to go beyond your existing network. One thing I'd actually recommend to all the youth that are listening to us today is to connect with as many relevant people that you know into your network to actually start to grow it. Okay, LinkedIn Premium allows you to kind of leapfrog that to a certain extent. Okay, and then thirdly, it gives you a few more in-mails per month. I couldn't tell you how many. But it gives you a few more emails per month if you want to look to kind of connect, cold outreach to people. If you're a freelancer and you're looking for business, maybe you actually want to get in your graphic designer and you want to start to, have a conversation with the chief marketing officer of an organization here in Mombasa.
Yeah.
Okay. You can find that person on LinkedIn and you can reach out to them, share your portfolio, and start to engage in a conversation.
I think it also allows you to see how many people and who specifically views your profile and goes through what you've put out there.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
That's a very important one. It's like professional stalking.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. And you can also, and actually, going back to the stalking terminology, which is the right one here, actually, not only can you get to see who viewed your profile, but you can also put yourself on an anonymous mode. So you can go and stalk people
without them.
Stalk people. You can go and, check for profiles, look at different people that would be of interest in your network or to engage with without them seeing that you've actually checked their profile.
Nice. Okay.
All
There's a bunch of other features, but you'd have to go into the premium page.
Go subscribe. We are speaking to Louis Marret, and of course he's a LinkedIn public affairs / government, education and non-profit lead at LinkedIn Africa. If you have a question for us, 0700917917. There's a question here. Malenga, good morning. It says, is it necessary to have very long captions on LinkedIn? And he, let me just finish it. It says, I have noticed the trend. Most people over-explain what they do. I doubt people read all that. What's the most ideal length of a caption?
By caption, does she mean post? I'm assuming
yes, the
right?
post, yes.
It's a very good question. I'd say anything that starts to grab the attention before having to click on the button that then kind of expands the post. But also we just know that everyone today, right, especially in the last like 5 to 7 years, everyone's attention spans have been decreasing drastically. Right? I'm the first one to kind of be concerned by this, by the way. It's a general comment about the entire 18 to 40-year-old generation today, and even beyond. But like that's where the effects are the most marked, essentially. So there's no quick answer to that. It's also going to depend on your audience. If you're addressing yourself to an audience that you know is actually going to go into depth as to what you're posting, you can allow yourself to expand a bit, right? If you're looking to kind of attract some kind of snappy messaging, as in an audience through snappy messaging, it's going to be maybe a couple of paragraphs without extending too much, because when you post on LinkedIn, if it's a longer post, you've got to click on like see more or expand the post. I can't remember what the terminology is. So you've got to play around with that to the best possible extent. Okay, so there's no kind of simple answer to that. I need to know exactly what kind of content the person in the audience here is kind of looking to put through. But you've got to think of whom you want to address, how you're going to address them, and then how can you best put the messaging out there, basically.
Okay. He's also asked, can one use their nickname on LinkedIn, especially the creatives or social media influencers, because for most of them, their nicknames are actually their brand? Yeah,
it's a good question. It's a question that's hard for me to answer, because on LinkedIn, you do have to position yourself as a physical person, right? As the person that you really are. But it doesn't prevent you whatsoever in your current job adding, for example, your YouTube name or your Alliance or your TikTok name.
Yeah.
Same in the about description. Going back to what you were saying, right? I was mentioning to you at the start of the conversation, the about description, you want to make it in a way, you want to put it together in a way that's going to best serve what your own objectives are on LinkedIn, right? In a way that's perhaps slightly different to what you're seeing in the job section. It's a place where actually you can find more creativity to position what you want to be positioning.
Okay.
And I'll just end on this actually, because on your LinkedIn profile, there's a lot of real estate, a lot of digital real estate, right? There's your picture. You can actually, if you're
the banner,
there's the banner, there's the picture, there's the job section, there's the about section, and that's all kind of fixed to a large extent. But then you've got all the posting section, which is infinite, because you can post as much as you want. I wouldn't recommend that 10 posts a day, because it's just going to get lost in translation, obviously. But that's where actually you can start to control the narrative that you want to be sending out on the platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Considering that our listener here is a young person.
Yeah.
How can young professionals leverage LinkedIn to compete globally?
It's a good question. Compete in what capacity? In the labor market, selling themselves,
entrepreneurship, and what have you.
That's a big question. Yeah. It's a very big question. In a number of different ways. And there's no single answer to that question, depending on the kind of profiles that we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay. If we think of someone who's actually looking, for example, a Kenyan, who wants to advance his or her career in a different country, what I would recommend doing is actually perhaps not even starting from LinkedIn, counterintuitively, but actually starting to focus on where are the countries that I'm going to find the best possible job opportunities in terms of sectors that are growing. Is it the UAE? Is it the UK? Is it France? Is it Switzerland? Is it South Africa? Wherever it may be.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, do a short list of the countries where you think you're going to be in a capacity to advance your own agenda based on different factors. Okay. If you're looking for a salary job, then start to actually go into LinkedIn and go into the job section. And then based on the short list of countries that you come up with, perhaps it's going to be a short list that's going to be based on visa requirements or travel location or proximity to Kenya or whatever it may be, right? And based off of that, you can start going into the job section of LinkedIn and looking at adding the right location, doing a few kind of different searches, SA, the UK, UAE, whatever it may be,
and then the microphone.
And then,
Yes.
excuse me, and then combine it with a bunch of keywords. The search algorithm, the search function of the job section on LinkedIn is very powerful. So you can actually look to combine the location, the keywords, and come up with the jobs that are going to be most relevant to you. Because yes, when you actually go on LinkedIn into the job section, it pushes jobs that are going to be relevant to you, but not necessarily cross-location. So going back to your question, it's a way in which you can kind of start combining what you want to achieve and the way that you can get there. Okay, that's for the salary section. For the entrepreneurship and kind of, branding yourself on LinkedIn perspective, it's a mix of the things that we've been talking about today so far, basically.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
What skills do you think African recruiters are currently searching for the most?
That's a good question. I can answer that question indirectly.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you why. I'm not an African recruiter. I'm in conversations with them every now and then, not so recently, and it's also going to depend from sector to sector, right? A recruiter who's looking to recruit in the not-for-profit sector, which is, of course, as we all know, big in Nairobi, is going to be recruiting for different skills than perhaps, say, a telco recruiter who's looking to recruit from one of the largest telecoms organizations in Kenya, okay? But what I can tell you is the data that we have on skills at LinkedIn and the growth that we're seeing in a certain type of skills in the last 12 months, because I've been in these conversations recently. Yeah. We're seeing a huge amount of growth in AI-related skills, actually not just in Kenya, but across the board, okay? Not surprising, right? Because the industry is booming, LLMs are being used by everyone, everyone's also trying to promote an ethical use of AI that kind of makes sense for everyone to be involved in, and for the industry to also go into the right direction. So that's something that we're seeing a significant amount of, not just in Kenya, by the way, but we're seeing a significant amount of growth in those kinds of skills across the board, okay, location-wise, across different geographies.
Yeah. Are we seeing more people actually get involved in remote jobs?
I don't have the data myself on that.
Okay.
Like off the top of my head, what I can say about that is that there's been kind of a reverse trend on the remote nature of, on the remote section of the labor market, in the sense that COVID hit 5 years ago now, 6 years ago now. Everything moved online. There was a bit of back and forth. A lot of big tech organizations were also looking to continue down that direction, right? Yeah. Labor costs were cut, real estate costs were cut, et cetera, et cetera. But actually what we're now starting to see across a number of different sectors, tech, banking, finance as well, in a lot of different countries, we're seeing a return to office policy, okay? So off the top of my head, I don't have the exact numbers, and I can't share the numbers that we have on LinkedIn about this, but we do have teams that actually do look into this. But in the grand scheme of things, the general trend is a return to office mandates at the highest level. Now, of course, there are different, there's idiosyncrasies in that messaging as well. Freelancers who actually work for, clients on missions that are ad hoc would have more flexibility in doing that. But salaried employees, that's the general trend, yeah.
All right. You earlier on when we were having this conversation, you said you moved to a lot of universities. Yeah. Why? What's happening?
So, it's a very good question. It fits the narrative that we've been talking about so far today, and especially in the first kind of 10 to 15 minutes. Everyone needs, especially the young people, right, that are looking at, it's a tight labor market in Kenya, just like it is in most places today in the world. Yeah. So it's not easy to get a job. If you're looking to apply for a job or even an internship in, say, your second or third year of university, and then at the age of anything between 25 and maybe 26, 27, you're looking to get your first job out of university, you want to be putting every single chance on your side to be in the capacity to land that job, right? You want to have a well put together CV so that actually when it's sent to the different application systems, if it does get screened through AI, which sometimes happens with some organizations, you want to make sure that you're actually going to be screened through and get to the first interview. That's one example, right? Secondly, you want to be brushing up on your interview skills, okay? So that actually if you do land an interview, you're in the best possible position to go to the next stage, okay? You also want to inform yourself on the organization that you're recruiting for, so that actually when you go into the first, second, third interview, you can shine. Okay, these are all things that you're putting on your side. Another thing that you should be putting on your side is actually perfecting your digital CV, which is LinkedIn. If you start to get into an interview process chances are the recruiter or the hiring manager is also going to be going to check your LinkedIn profile, see what you've done, cross-check the information with your CV, see if you also have any references on your LinkedIn profile. If you go to the bottom of your LinkedIn profile, you can get a couple references.
Yes.
You don't need many. Maybe one from, if you're a student, one from your professor, one from a mentor. A recommendation. It's synonymous, but you're right. So you want to be putting it together in the best possible way.
Yeah.
If you're starting to post and you get engagement from people that kind of matter in the space, it also adds value to your messaging, right? So going back to your question, we want to see, and conversations that I've been having with universities, a lot of the leadership, they actually say, well, we'd love to see all of our students on LinkedIn for the reasons that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Right. So we're also in the journey of kind of helping them bring their students onto the platform so that they can advance their employment outcomes and get in front of the right opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've mentioned AI, and you've talked about AI screening the CV, right? With the advent again of artificial intelligence, most of our CVs are actually AI generated, right? We're able to use fill in the information and we let it do that.
Yeah.
How does this harm somebody who's applying for a job opportunity? Yes.
You mean the kind of overflow of AI related?
Okay, so I'll give an example. I'll give an example. There's a project I was working on, and it's not a CV, it's a budget that I was sharing with these people, right?
Okay.
And I think their feedback was, we can tell that this budget has been generated by AI.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so for an instance where I'm putting together my CV, and I go online, because you can easily say I'm applying for this particular job, fit it to, how do you call it?
Yeah.
Let's make it
to the
fit
job
the
description.
skills. Yes, to the job description. I'll take the job description, paste it there, and say, align my application to this, right? And some of it, I might know some of it. I might have some of the skills. I might not have some of the skills. Now we also have our CV being screened as well. Does this hurt my chances, or does it put me at an upper hand to be employed? So
sending an AI generated CV in a way that makes sense, right? Because you prompted it well, you've matched the job description with whatever you want to produce, and like it's clean, and then you're asking me like, if you send it, how are your chances affected?
Yes.
Very good question. I don't have the exact data behind it, so I can tell you from intuition. Okay. Also because I haven't applied to a job in some time now, and especially since all the AI stuff is
job security.
Good for you.
Well, for now, for now we'll see. But well, at least not with a CV actually.
Yes,
I'll say that. But you can also apply on LinkedIn, by the way, FYI.
Yes,
through the quick apply.
Yes,
exactly. And just as a kind of side parenthesis, my intuition here would be that it's probably somewhat high risk, somewhat kind of mid-level reward. Okay, because it's going to be lost in translation with a number of other people that are going to be doing it. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're doing this for one job, you're probably doing this for a bunch of other jobs as well. And even though the job is actually, even though the CV is perhaps being generated very fast, how many jobs are you doing this for? And what you should be doing if you're actually going down this process is checking every single bullet point in your CV to make sure that there's no mistakes. And we all know that AI does make mistakes, right? And actually, it may take 2 seconds because you got the prompt. Maybe you have like a cheat sheet 1-page of Word where you got a few prompts that allow you to do this. And then you copy paste it, boom, it generates the PDF in like 2 seconds. Great. But then, if you actually have to go and check every single CV that you send out to make sure that everything is clean, it starts to perhaps lengthen the process. What I would recommend, and if you're applying for jobs, there's probably kind of one sector that you're looking to apply into. Like there's a broad category of maybe different jobs, but they all kind of regroup towards the same objective, more or less, right?
Yes.
So have like a master CV that fits whatever you're interested in and tweak it manually in a way that adjusts to the specific job that you're applying for.
Yes.
First thing. And the last thing I'll also say is once you've connected, unless it's a really large organization that you're applying for where it's perhaps hard to find the person that is going to be the hiring manager behind the scenes. But if it's a small organization, even up to maybe 1,000, 2,000 employees, if you play around with the filters on LinkedIn in a smart way, you can probably find who's actually going to be the person to hire you, even though it wasn't public in the job description. And then you can proactively reach out to them, connect with them, send them perhaps a message, or even start to kind of like their post or comment on their post if they have posted on LinkedIn, and then they start to understand whom you are.
I like that. It's like doing a soft launch. It's noticing that Louis could be my next potential employer, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that's the reason why we also connect on LinkedIn. Is it advisable for me, once I've noticed that Louis works in this organization, so maybe I just inbox them and send and say, I'm interested in this particular position? I see that a lot.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you. You were going to say something?
Yeah, like, is it advisable to actually, when you see a connection that would be beneficial to you, for you to reach out to them on DM? And then also, I'm noticing again with LinkedIn, when you're connecting, right, it recommends, how do you call it, people within your sector, within your networks, within my area of work.
Yeah.
For somebody who might not, what if I want to connect with other people in other, how do you call it,
areas,
professions,
industries,
yes,
kind
in
of
other
spaces
industries.
on LinkedIn, if you like, yeah. So, 2 questions in one.
Yes.
First question, it depends of the sector in which you're in. There are some roles where a connection, kind of like a follow-up in a way that shows that you're proactively engaging with the audience that's actually the decision-making audience regarding you potentially getting the job.
Mm-hmm.
There are some fields where that would be very welcome. Sales, it'll be very welcome.
Okay.
Marketing, perhaps, as well. HR in some capacity, too. Where perhaps it's going to be not necessarily less welcome, but the response rate maybe just be lower, is in the tech field. Just because engineers, like the tech profiles that you have on LinkedIn, they're in such high demand that they get in-mails from all sorts of organizations in the Silicon Savannah, I think it's called, right? Yeah, in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Reaching out to them in XYZ direction. Okay, all the time. Mm-hmm. So if they get a quick in-mail from someone who's just, connecting to, there's no harm in doing it, but maybe you just want to be using your credits in the best possible capacity. Okay, but there are some fields where it makes more sense, as in kind of, some vertical, some job descriptions, job types where it makes a bit more sense, and others a bit less so, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so you got to kind of just be astute as to which space are you operating in. If you're operating in that space, you know what the culture is like in that space, and then you just act accordingly. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing is, remind me of the question.
What was the second question?
Interacting with people from
interacting with people from other
industries.
From other industries.
Exactly.
Yes.
Growing your network into different spaces.
Yeah.
If you want to venture into a different space, you probably have an idea of, first of all, why you want to go there. And secondly, a couple of perhaps key people who are in there already. Go onto their profiles, and then to the right, as you said, and actually, the LinkedIn algorithm works wonderfully well. But if there's one area of the platform where it works incredibly precisely, is when you're on someone's profile, and then to the right, you got other profiles that other people have visited. Okay? It works super well. Like, I would go, for example, onto a colleague's profile on LinkedIn, and then to his right, as in to the right on the screen, I'd have the whole team.
Yeah.
Like, not just, that, but like direct reports, basically. Yeah. Same, like people who literally sat in the same office space. Start by doing that. You got maybe 2-3 key people in the space that you want to venture in, that you know of. Yeah. Because if you do want to venture in the space, ideally you know at least 2-3 people who are in that space, basically. And then look to the right as to people who are adjacent to those key stakeholders that you'd want to engage, and start to connect with them, for example.
Okay.
My question would be, actually I have 2 questions. First, we go back to the quick apply. So for the quick apply, I have uploaded my CV on LinkedIn, and now LinkedIn suggests a couple of jobs, and all I have to do is press quick apply, and the CV is going to be sent. Yeah. So my question basically is on data protection.
Okay.
Who is accessing this data? Most of the times I apply for these jobs, I do not get them. So that means, does that mean that the CV is going to those recruiters or those companies? Do they stay with them? Who holds this information? Who screens the CVs? Are you guys giving out our data to other companies, and is that safe, especially in this age where we're talking about data protection? That's the first question. Yeah, Number 2, LinkedIn, just like any other social media application, especially as we were talking about the advent of AI, AI generated content. For you guys, it's not typically the same as Instagram, where we're getting so many photos and videos, although we get photos and videos, but the AI is also in the long captions that one of our listeners was talking about. Okay. How are you guys navigating that? Because we are looking to get into a period where we are more watermarking AI content and making it look distinct from original content. Are you guys having that conversation, and how does it look like specifically for this platform?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 big questions. Two very good questions. by the way.
Yes.
Thank you. So on the first question, I can answer it partly just because I'm not the best person to ask that question to.
Okay.
Because I'm in the partnerships team.
Yes.
I'm not in the legal team. Okay. But also happy to connect with with the right person at LinkedIn on this.
Yes.
On the easy apply button, it's often not just a question of actually clicking on the button. It is far easier, of course, to do easy apply than another process. But even when you do easy apply, there's a somewhat kind of typically like a 3 to 7 step process. And I say 3 to 7 because it's set up by the company that is hiring. So if they want any clarifying questions, for example, if they want to make sure that you're going to be located in Nairobi to be able to apply for that job, they may ask you to re-specify your location in one of those questions there, even though you've already specified it on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Okay. So typically there's like a few clarifying questions that they ask, and then they, of course, they get that information on their end. Okay. Because for them, it's a paid service. They pay LinkedIn to be able to post their jobs on the platform.
Oh, really?
Okay. So that's one thing. And then on the CV and who's holding it for how long, I wouldn't have the specific answer to that. Okay, but I can check into it and come back to you guys, and if especially if it matters to the viewership, more than happy to share the right information.
Okay. Yes.
First question. Secondly, on the AI side of things, I'm going to bounce the question back to you. Which platform do you think today, like of all the social networks that perhaps you're involved in, how would you kind of position LinkedIn in terms of the extent to which AI content is appearing on the feed, perhaps compared to not naming them or anything? Other social media platforms?
I think we'll have first to gauge the different content deliverables that are generated by AI.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about images, of course, IG, TikTok, Twitter, top.
Yeah.
Videos, IG, TikTok, YouTube as well, top. Captions, I think all of you are number 1, because I can go on my AI and say, generate a caption for me for IG, for Twitter, X, sorry. For LinkedIn. So it's very vague at the moment, but yeah, essentially all of us are in that same sphere, so I cannot rank. But when you go through captions that your peers post, you're able to read and you're like, this might have been too insanely long for this person to have written by himself.
No, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. It's a very fair point. I'll give you my own personal feeling and comment.
Yes.
Okay. I think what we're seeing is we're starting to see a lot of AI fatigue to a large extent. And people are actually starting to become increasingly astute to feed out what is AI and what is not AI.
Yes.
Especially on the video kind of... I'm saying that, but, when Gemini launched their latest models, it's crazy.
It was amazing.
It's just mad. But, the pictures, super realistic, and even the videos now are getting pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But people are becoming increasingly aware of, even though the tech is advancing, people's reaction to the tech is also evolving.
Yeah.
So we're actually in the capacity to start to filter through things. When I see, and this is actually my own personal experience, I take it away from LinkedIn, but I read a couple of news sources, newspapers, outside of social media. I won't name them because of what I'm about to say. And when you see the big hyphen in a piece of text, not the big hyphen, that screams AI.
Yeah.
When I see that, I'm grossed out, especially when a journalist writes, as in has that in their text, because I just know that they've proof checked it through AI.
Yes.
And actually what they didn't even do is that they didn't ask ChatGPT or whatever, write the article or check the article based on the tone of what I usually write from. Okay? So whenever I see the hyphen, I'm like, it drives me crazy. And I think a lot of people are starting to notice cues in picking up what's AI and what's not AI.
Yeah.
And then, as a result of that, on average, right, especially when you're starting to look at large sample numbers, people start to engage with, comment, stuff that they want to be liking and commenting, right? So then actually, based on this hypothesis, which I think has some truth to it, but again, it's only my own personal opinion, we'd start to get a newsfeed that is tailor-made to you based on your own personal interests, and also what you're kind of not only including, but also rejecting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're seeing that to a large extent. Now we also, it's fair to say, when you post on LinkedIn, often you'd have the ability to post a piece of text and accompany it with an image. We see an increasing amount, of course, just like on any other social media, of images that are AI generated. But to be fair, it also kind of captures the attention in a way that is not negative, I would say.
Sure.
Especially if the content of the text on the sideline is of added value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for making time today, Louis. I
Fantastic.
think that brings us to the end of our conversation. And of course, Louis is heading out to Swahili Portal Foundation for a fireside chat.
Absolutely.
Yes, with Rukia. So do join us there pretty much from 10?
From noon. From 11.
From 11.
Yes.
From 11.
From 11, yes.
Yes, so do make time today. From us to you, I mean, we're grateful. Thank you for making time.
Fantastic.
And then from the breakfast team, we'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you.